Yo, what's going on, guys? In today's video I want to show you an updated version of my Spider Tank Commander Moto build, and this version deals around 300 million DPS. And in case you haven't watched it, I made a video about cheaper version of this build which deals around 40 to 50 million DPS, and that version costs probably around 20 Elementium, I'm not too sure. But this version definitely is much more expensive, so I finally decided to invest into it, and right now I think I did spend around 1000 Elementium. So it's definitely much more expensive. So in this video, first thing I want to show you is DPS on target dummy, then I'm going to show you map example, then I'm gonna go one by one what I did when I was upgrading this build. In case you were following the guide from my previous video, you're gonna know what to go for next. And then I'm gonna go for overall everything I do have right now and what also I am planning to upgrade next. Okay, so first let's start with target dummy. So summoners are actually very nice when you want to check DPS, because normally you can check only up to 100 million DPS on target dummy. It doesn't show higher than that, but since we have 6 spider tanks, I can just summon one of them and then just multiply my DPS by 6. So let's check that out. I'm always looking at the average DPS. Let's hit for a few seconds. And I guess we can stop. So it's around 42 million DPS. So 42 times 6. That's 252 million DPS. But the reason why I'm saying it's 300 is because when you also use your machine army, it gives you additional attack speed per stack. So per how many minions you have. And obviously now I have only one spider tank and 2 spirits, so I have 3 minions. Normally I would have 6 of them, so 8 total. So I would get much more attack speed from my machine army. So it's probably more around 300 million, and definitely I can still do few small upgrades, so I can definitely still reach 300 million even if I don't have it with enough stacks of machine army. Okay, so now I'm gonna show you the map example. So I'm actually gonna go to time arc 8 since it's much harder, and let's go here for this map. Roll for 100% quantity. So this should be decently hard, but for this version of the build it's not too hard. Okay, so obviously I'm summoning all 6 of them. And the gameplay doesn't really change. The only difference is that now I have one skill, so 6 minions in one skill, and I have one free spot which now uses corruption. So normally in my previous version I would apply my corruption with person hit on my leap attack. Now I have to cast it myself, which is actually better in my opinion, because now I don't have to leap on top of enemies, so it's definitely much easier. Now you can see my single target, and the boss is dead. So far I still haven't killed time mark 8 bosses, but I'm probably gonna do that today. Should be decently easy, but time mark 7 are just dying pretty much instantly. The Traveler, every single phase only lasts a few seconds, so it's definitely a good amount of DPS right now. And that was time arc 8. Okay, so now I am gonna go over all of the changes that I did. So first let's look at the gear, because this is the most important part. So I was using previously these 2 weapons, these 2 rings, and this belt and these boots. So these are all of the items I was using earlier. And actually I also was using a different helm. So the first big upgrade you want to go for from the previous version is you want to go for Fiend Crown, because it is actually not that expensive. I think you can buy it for like 80, maybe 70 Elementium if you are lucky, and it gives your minions a lot of crit damage and minion gain lucky, which gives just more damage. And also you get some sealed mana and some other stuff like minion attack speed. But you don't get any resistances, which means you need to get resistances elsewhere. But yeah, this is definitely a big upgrade, and just from buying this helmet, I gained from 40 million DPS, I think, up to like 70 million. So it almost doubled my DPS. It's definitely a good upgrade. And after that, basically any other upgrade I wanted to go for, I needed to first craft my weapon. So I was thinking about going for wands. A lot of people are actually going for wands when they are upgrading weapons from the interlocking soul. But I didn't want to use wands because when you start using them, you can't use your leap attack anymore. You have to blink. And I am not the biggest fan of blink. I still want to use leap attack, which is why I wanted to go for two-handed weapon. And now I am actually a bit slower, so you can definitely see I am not leaps attacking that fast anymore. But it's still, in my opinion, better than blink. So this is the two-handed weapon I crafted, so it gives me just additional minion damage, minion skill level, +5 to main skill level, which right now is the spiders, additional minion attack speed, crit damage, but you might notice that it's not for minions, it's just crit damage, but we're gonna talk about that a bit later, and 24% chance for minions to deal double damage. So the reason I had to craft this weapon before I wanted to go for another upgrades is because, first of all, this stat, critical strike damage, it doesn't apply for minions, but once you have this belt, it gives isomorphic arms. So infinity, this was basically a second upgrade I went after the weapon. It gives isomorphic arms, which means main hand weapon is applied to minions. So now, not only your DPS and everything here is applied to minion. I'm actually not too sure if things like this, like minion skill level, minion movement speed and so on, double dips, if you basically apply this yourself and your minion has it. Probably not, but this definitely is applied to your minion. So that's why I crafted this mod. And after that, you might notice that this was only applied to main skill, which is +5, so that's a lot of skill levels. And main skill, in case you don't know, is basically the skill that you have on your right click. So previously I was using two minions, two skills for minions. So now, because I have this +5, I wanted to have enough minions summoned with just one skill, so all of them can be in here instead of some of them here, some of them here. So to do that, first of all, I needed to reach level 34 of my spider tanks. So you can see it's 20 plus 14, which means now this skill summons up to 6 minions. But you have to always remember that it is halved because of mechanical modification. It halves all of your minions. So now I need to reach 12. So it is 6 because of plus 14. Again, plus 5 is just from the weapon, plus 3 from the weapon, and a lot of points you get from the talents. And also I get +1 from boosts, which I'm going to show in a second. But yeah, I gained plus 14, so now it's 6 minions just from the skill. And then I went for these two rings, +2 corroded version instead of a normal one, which is +1. So that's that's 8 minions, and that's 10 minions, so I need to reach 12. So I also went for these boots, which not only give +1 to minion skill level, but also +1 to maximum amount of minions. So with this it's +11. I also could go for a corroded version, but it's much more expensive. These boots you can buy for like 100 elementium, and corroded one with +2 go for 500 and more. So it's definitely much more expensive. So right now I just am using this one. So with this I have 11 minions, and again I have to reach 12. So if you have that, that would be 6. So the last minion, like I said, there's few ways to get it. You can do it by corroding this, which probably I'm gonna go for in the future. There's also a unique chest that you can go for, but it's also pretty expensive. So for now, because I ran out of my currency, the way I am getting my 12 minions is I'm just using Maniacal Army, which gives me +1, which is not ideal option. Going for either Passivation or the slower projectile is better. I personally prefer slower projectile because it just gives you 39% extra projectile damage, and this gives damage based on remaining life. So which basically means if the boss has a low life, it's not gonna give you that much damage. So I personally still prefer slow projectiles. So yeah, I'm still losing a lot of damage because I'm using this one. But like I said, in the future I'm gonna replace it with the corroded boots or the chest, which I'm gonna show you later. So now I basically showed you all of the upgrades. I guess I can go over them again. First thing I did, I went for a Fiend Crown. The most important role is probably just minion critical strike damage. If you need some mana, you can also look for the one with a lot of sealed mana. I have just -6, so it's not the best. Then I went for the weapon, then for the belt, and you want isomorphic arms or the second one, which is not here, Mighty Guard. So you need both of them. If you get the belt with this one, you are using Mighty Guard. If you get the belt with Mighty Guard, then you can go for isomorphic arms in here. And another... After that, I went for the rings for +2, and then for the boots with +1 and +1. Unfortunately, I didn't get a good corrosion. I did corrode all of them, and I wasn't lucky with my weapon. I also didn't get anything. So now I actually want to show you how I crafted this weapon, which actually was the most expensive upgrade. Every other thing, so this ring only cost me like 30 each, this cost like 100, maybe 150, this also did cost 100 or 150, and helmet was I think around 80 elementium. And the weapon, on average to craft it, I did check it, should be between 500 and 600 elementium, and I actually got unlucky, and I think I had to spend around, I think 800, something around that. So I definitely did spend more than 1000 in total. So how to craft the weapon? First of all, you want the Vanquished Mallet at least item level 85. This one is 86, but it doesn't matter. You only need 85. And then you want to start crafting with Amplified Embers. The way I'm gonna do it here, I'm just gonna show you any tiers. You obviously will just roll until you hit every single mod tier 1, which on average for every mod I think should be around 100 embers, maybe a bit lower than that. So here obviously you would roll with Amplified until you hit tier 1 minion damage. So here, unlucky, this one is not tier 1, but basically you would not take it and go again and again until you reach tier 1. But here I'm just gonna take it just to show you how you would do it, so basically every step. So next step would be Soulburst Ember. You would go for a minion movement speed and attack speed and critical strike damage. So you would roll, again you would continue doing it until you hit tier 1, and same with crit. Let's go for it. Okay, so again, this is how your weapon should look at this moment, but all of these 3 mods should be tier 1. So this actually is not that expensive. Again, it should be like only maybe between 50 and 100 tries per mod. So the next mod you want to go for is actually you would want the minion skill level and the chance for minions to deal double damage, but you can't go for them yet because you need 4 mods, which means I'm basically gonna go for any random modifier. So I'm just gonna use Vigor Ember, and you don't want to replace anything, you just want to add something. So here is what I am gonna go for. Actually, let me not do it. I actually would prefer to get a suffix. So let's go for strength or int. I'm gonna show you why in a second. No. Okay, it added strength. So now that you have 4 mods, now you can go for ruling or technique ember. And ruling is actually, it is more likely to hit +3 because it doesn't have that many tiers, and a lot of other ones also don't have that many tiers. So this is actually easier one, which means I want to go for it later because the price of rolling items increases every time you add a mod. So I would actually prefer to start with technique, which is a suffix. And this is why I went for 3 suffixes, which basically means now when you are gonna add something with Technique Ember, it is gonna have to replace one of these 3 modifiers. And there's a nice trick you can go for here to reduce the amount of Technique Embers you're gonna spend, which is you want to craft any chance for minions to deal double damage as a replacement of this strength. So this is exactly what you want. Actually, very lucky, first try. And now what is going to happen, anytime you are gonna get the chance for minions to deal double damage, it has to replace this mod. It no longer can replace this, it can no longer replace this. And you will obviously, if you don't go for it, let's say you have some random prefix, obviously you have a chance just to add tier 1 minion damage, but I think it is much more likely that it's gonna replace something, so you're basically gonna spend less currency. So just to show you, now I didn't get this mod, now I also didn't get this mod. Let's wait until I get double damage. No. Okay, so now I got double damage. So if this was tier 1, this would be perfect. It would just replace this. But obviously you can just take tier 2 and just continue rolling until you get tier 1, and it's always gonna replace this mod. So you're gonna end up with an item like this, except all of the modifiers are gonna be tier 1. And then the last thing you want you want +3 to minion skill level, which actually is either +2 or +3. There's only 2 tiers. So this one is gonna be again the same price because we replace the mod, which is also nice for the prices, that we don't have the random mod that is here. If you had this mod, now you also would pay more for rolling with Rolling Ember, so that's also another reason why it is better to replace something, not just add minion damage in here. So you will just go for it until you get the +2 minion skill gems. It might be tempting to at this point start using fossils, because very often you're gonna replace something, but I don't think it is worth to use fossil at this point yet. So right now I'm just burning through a lot of currency. Let's hope I get either tier 1 or tier 2. Oh, so I got tier 1, but it did replace a chance to deal double damage. Obviously in this case it is better because this is tier 2, but if this was tier 1, I actually would prefer to still keep this one, because like I said, rolling plus minion skill level is in my opinion a bit cheaper. And like I said, if I use fossil here, I would don't get this outcome, because in case you don't know, if you're gonna use the acute fossil, it is guaranteed to just add mod instead of replace it. So, but they are pretty expensive, so it is up to you if you want to use them or not. I personally prefer to not use them at this point. Come on, just give me minion damage. I mean minion level by itself. Definitely not getting lucky here. I'm not even getting... Oh, okay, so I got tier 1. So this is exactly what you want. I did not even get a single time at tier 2, so this was a weird rolling session. So you will take it, and at this point you have 5 mods, which all of them should be tier 1, and all of this that we have done so far actually has been pretty cheap. All of these embers that I've been spending and the currency was actually not that expensive. Still, depending on your luck, you're gonna spend a decent amount. But now is when the expensive part begins, because now we need to add +5 to main skill level. And this is Omnis mod, which means item has to have 6 modifiers. So now you just want to add any mod as a prefix. So I would at this point use acute fossil, so it guarantees to add something instead of replacing it, and I will just add whatever mod. It doesn't matter what mod you're gonna add, so I'm gonna go for it. I just added elemental damage, and now you would roll with Omnius Ember, which means every time you're gonna roll with it, you're gonna spend 20 elementium and 1 Omnius Ember, which right now goes for around 24 elementium. So every try is 44 elementium. So the chance to get +5 main skill level, there is only 1 tier for every one of these modifiers. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 mods, which basically means you have 1 in 4 chances. And it also has to replace one of these 3 modifiers, and you obviously want it to replace this mod, which is 1 in 3. So times 3. So the chance to hit it is 1 in 12. And every single time you are spending 44 Elementium because of this and Omnious Ember. So on average, you should hit it in 528 Elementium. So I actually was pretty unlucky, and I think I did spend like around 800. I am not too sure. So it definitely can be pretty pricey. And actually, this weapon, even without this +5, it's still pretty good. If you're just gonna hit every single other mod as a tier 1 and you don't have the extra currency, you can just use the weapon, and then when you're gonna farm, just continuously from time to time use this ember, just hopefully until you're gonna get your +5. So yeah, and at that point you can corrode it, and also you can use Truth Ember to roll. For example, here I have +2 and you want to have +3, so you use them until you hit +3 and good other rolls. So that's basically rerolls the mods within this value. Okay, so once you crafted your weapon, like I said, you would go for the other things, because now if you have your +5, then you need all of your minions to be in this slot. So I did that, like I said, with all of these items, +2, +2, +1, and I am also using this so that now the main head weapon is applied to minions, so this crit damage is also applied to minions. And that's basically all of the upgrades I went so far. Now let me talk about the skills. So for talents, actually nothing changes. First, actually, let me talk about talents. I'm gonna show you everything in here. So here is God of the Machines, here is the Alchemist, and here is the Warlock. So I actually did not change anything. It's probably not super optimized. I probably am gonna look at it later and maybe replace something. I'm not too sure. For the skills, again, I'm using everything in one skill right now. So Mechanical Modification, Critical Damage, Blood for Slaughter, Multi-Strike, and Maniacal Army. Eventually, when I'm gonna have 12 minions without it, I'm gonna replace it for Slower Projectile or Passivination. I think Slower Projectile is better in my opinion. And now I could replace the second slot with my Corruption. And Corruption has Extended Duration, Increase Area, Pain Amplification, and Abysmal Hatred. This one is gonna give your curse more effect, but it's gonna reduce the area, which is why I'm using Increase Area. And Pain Amplification and Extended Duration for more duration of the Corruption. And if you don't know what Corruption does, it basically reduces enemy erosion resist, and thanks to the rings, we are dealing erosion damage. Machine Army, nothing really changes, just mass effect, extended duration, and cooldown reduction. For lip attack, hardened, quick mobility, and precision strike, because precision strike actually gives you additional attack speed, so you want to use that. And Dark Gate, cooldown reduction, duration, and pain amplification, just for additional duration. And for the auras, there's actually a few changes you can do yourself, but what I'm going for is precise projectiles. A weird name, but that's what you go for. Then precise erosion enhancement. You don't have to go for precise versions. I just had enough currency to go for them. And then you use the also precise weapon amplification, and you can support all three of them with stand as one and selfless. And these supports you can't buy in the normal shop in here. You have to buy them on auction house, but they are actually pretty cheap, maybe like 5 Elementium per. And I am actually leveling them myself because it was cheaper, so I still don't have level 20, so I'm actually not too sure what my the end game auras are gonna look like once I have enough sealed mana reduction. So in case you don't know, selfless is gonna give you additional sealed mana reduction, but it's also gonna make it so the aura only affects your minions, so it doesn't affect you, which actually might make you want to use your weapon amplification somewhere else to not be affected by it, because it gives you attack speed, so you actually might want some attack speed for your leap attack to be faster. But you want to support it with stand as one, which gives additional aura effect. So it is gonna affect all of the auras. If you want to, you can use this in the another slot and support it with stand as one too. And my second aura setup is my double spirit with mark. The mark, this portion doesn't work for the spiders. A lot of people are actually asking me how mark works. So if you support your spirits with mark, this portion is only working for the spirits, but when you click on the mark, it says that when target is marked, evasion and is reduced and critical strike damage taken is increased. So this critical strike damage taken is increased by the target actually works for the spiders. It basically works for anything that hits the marked target. So this is why I am using mark. And the last slot is actually free, whatever you want to go for. If you have some additional mana, and you can see here when I'm gonna deactivate it, and still I have 31% sealed mana. So right now I'm using rejuvenation and I'm still leveling it, so eventually it's gonna reserve more mana, and I'm supporting it with restraint, which basically reduces the mana sealed. And I have a lot of energy free, so if I felt like it, I could still go for additional slots, and if I have mana for it, I could use precise elemental resist, which gives +1 to max res and a lot of resistances. So that's one thing you can go for. You can also go for steadfast or additional armor. Obviously it would be higher level. You can go for magical source or mana regen if you feel like you need it, maybe evasion, maybe movement speed. It's really up to you. If you are using energy shield, you can even go for some energy shield. Like I said, it doesn't matter too much. I personally, I am probably gonna end up using where is it? Elemental resistances, because when I'm gonna swap some older gear slots, I'm gonna need some more resists. So I'm probably gonna end up using this. And right now, in case you're wondering, I have 75, 75, 23, and 74. So I'm not resist capped by 1 point. And also you can fix your resistances with your pacts if you feel like it. So finally finished everything that I changed. I guess I can also show you my pact, which are this. Here is everything, just the base one. Here also are base things, but here I replace some of these mods with additional drops, and here I am still using the resistances. And here we can also switch for additional resistances if you feel like you need them. And all of the pets I have are from free to play. All of them I bought with the currency that I made from playing the game. I did not buy any of them. And for hero traits, it's the same setup as always. Nothing really changes here. So now, the last thing I want to talk about is my future upgrades. So what I am gonna go for from now on. So like I already mentioned, I don't want to use the Maniacal Army. So eventually I will replace it with Solar Projectile, which means I would need to get +1 somewhere. And the easiest way to do it is from the boots, getting corroded one with +2, or I can go for the chest. So let me show you the chest. It is in here. I think it is int Endless Fortress. So this gives from -2 to +2 maximum synthetic troop quantity capacity. So at that point I only need +1, so it can be a bit cheaper. But if I go for +2, I could remove the corrosion from one of my rings and get some other corrosion. For example, let me actually show you. Instead of getting +2, I could get maybe sealed mana corroded, or physical damage added as extra erosion damage. This can go up to, I think, like 25 if it's eroded. Corroded, so that's what you can go for if you get the chest with +2. But like I said, it's not needed. Only +1 is enough to already drop the Maniacal Army. And also it's gonna give you some additional resistances, 30% minion damage when they have low life, which is pretty much always because they are taking damage from your hero trait. And also you gain Arcane, which gives 40% life, which is a lot of life, but it also converts all of your mana cost to life cost, which is good and a bad thing. It is a good thing because now you no longer need any mana regen. You no longer care about leaving a little bit of mana so you can use your skills. So you can reserve your whole mana. Let me go back to the item. And the bad thing about it is that now you're gonna lose your life, obviously, when you're gonna cast your skills. So if you don't have that good of a regen, it is gonna hurt you. This is why I am actually probably gonna stick with the rejuvenation. So yeah, that's the chest I'm gonna go for. But if you look at the prices, so let me go in here and this fortress with, let's go with at least 1 plus 1 to minion capacity. It costs 200 elementium at least, so it is pretty expensive. And if you go for plus 2, then it's like 300. So it is definitely pretty expensive, but that's probably gonna be another upgrade I'm gonna go for. And the last big upgrade is the amulet, because this 100% crit damage only is applied to minion because of isomorphic arms, but it actually can also be applied to minion just by itself if you go for the amulet that make it so your every crit damage and crit chance that is applied to you is also applied to your minions. And it is called, in here you actually have to scroll a lot for it, Warden's Breastplate. So if you look at it, it says that 99 up to 100% of critical strike rating and damage is applied to minions. So this is what I'm gonna go for. But it also says that your minions can only deal physical damage. And as you probably know, I am dealing corrosion damage because I am converting all of my minions damage with the rings from physical to corrosion. So to remove that, we actually have to pay extra, because normally this amulet is not that expensive. It's only like 50 elementium. But you can actually get the corroded version, and now instead of making you only deal physical damage, now it's gonna make it so minions cannot deal physical damage, which lets you do erosion damage. But this version, corroded, as you can see in here, costs at least 500 elementium, maybe 440, 30. So it is safe to assume around 500 elementium. So these are basically two biggest upgrades I am gonna go for this amulet, so that the crit from the weapon is applied to my minion just by itself, and on top of that, my minion is gonna have weapon thanks to the belt, so it's gonna apply twice. Also, it gives some additional minion damage, minion life, some int, and minion attack and cast speed, which is also pretty nice. So that's it in terms of the big upgrades. And what I would go for at that point, I probably would try to buy level 21 Summon Spider Tank, which I think costs around 200 to 400 elementium right now. I'm not too sure. Obviously, I would try to get every other skills as a level 21, but at that point, it's all about just min-maxing. I think at that point, once I have the belt and the amulet and the chest, I'm also obviously gonna recraft my gloves for some more life, more resists, just so I still can have a resist cap. But at that point, it's all just about min-maxing. Just for example, instead of normal version of Fiend Crown, I would buy a corroded one. I would try to craft a new weapon and corrode it with maybe even more minion skill level and main skill level, and so on. Maybe better Infinity with corroded cooldown recovery or resist. And in case you don't know, these mods are also random. You can go for some additional life, additional minion damage, it doesn't really matter. Try to get as best mods as you can. I fortunately got one with cooldown recovery, which now actually allows me to have my overload pretty much 100% all the time. There is, I think, the slight window when my minions can die, but if I click my overload perfectly, I pretty much can have it up all the time. Obviously corroded boots with maybe +1. If I actually get +1 here, maybe I would not go for the chest. Maybe I would look for another chest if I didn't need +2 in here. And maybe some double corroded rings with additional eroded damage. But yeah, at that point it's all about corrosions and about level 21 skills. I don't think I would change anything else. Also, I guess you can go for Infinity with 2 additional talents, but that would be also extremely expensive. So that's gonna be it for this video. Thanks for watching and see you. next time.